is a real thing. Care burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that may be accompanied by a change in attitude from positive and caring to negative and unconcerned. And this is a real issue. So some of the warning signs of burnout can be things like withdrawing from friends and family, loss of interest in activities, feeling down, irritable, hopeless. There's a list of indicators in terms of experiencing burnout. In ministry, I went through a period where I got that close to being burnt out. And the desire to be present for people, listening to people talk about their problems, and in my head I'm thinking, I wish you would just. And there was indicators that something was wrong here. So we all have a capacity, and if we are not feeding ourselves, if we are not nurturing ourselves, we'll come to a point where we burn out. So we need to practice proper self-care. Let's move on. All right, so in terms of caregiving and mental health, there's some more information. 78%, and this is from research from Carers UK, 78% feel more anxious as a result of their caring responsibilities. 84% of carers feel more stressed. 55% suffer from depression as a result of their caring role. 71% of carers have poor physical or mental health. And those are very high statistics. So this is something that's part and parcel of the challenges of caring responsibilities. So some of the things that carers need to ask themselves, or we can help them to ask. Do you think you're being selfish if you put your needs first? And putting your needs first, it's not necessarily about being selfish, it's about having the capacity to give. If you are going to give yourself to other people, you have to have something to give. You cannot draw from an empty well. Is it frightening to think of your own needs? What is the fear about? Do you have trouble asking for what you need? Do you feel inadequate if you ask for help? Do you feel you have to prove that you are worthy of the care recipient's attention? Do you do too much to meet unrealistic expectations? While caregivers are often more than willing to sacrifice for their loved one, care receivers struggle with the burden, with being a burden to their family. 70% of care receivers indicated that they struggled with feeling that they were a burden. Which is, I think, the point that you were alluding to. So we not only need to be cognizant of the mental health of the caregivers, but also what the care receiver is going through. Because none of us want to feel that we are a burden. Next slide. Okay, so some of the things that we need to look at in terms of, let's just put them all up on the screen, in terms of self-care. How many of you here get the requisite amount of sleep that you need on a regular basis? How many of you? It's going to be different. It's going to be different for different people. But how many of you get the sleep that you need in order to function at your best? You know, we generally struggle with sleep, but it's absolutely sufficient that we address our sleep needs. Healthy diet, exercise, all of those good things that are part of our health message we need to be looking at. Stress management. How do you manage your stress? Are you intentional about managing your stress? How do you do it? In fact, just throw the question out. How do you? So a couple of hands fly up over here. How do you manage stress? Particularly if you are living in a context where the needs and responsibilities are incessant. How do you manage your stress?
Hi there, everybody. Um, I suffer from anxiety. I have a son who's got autism, and I've had my ups and downs. I've gone to the GP, and all they've offered me is antidepressants. Didn't take them, so my way of dealing with things is going to the gym. I go 4 times a week. I go steam sauna, and I draw.
Draw.
I draw, yeah. Um, if I'm feeling down, I talk to somebody outside because I find sometimes you can have your family, but you can still feel alone, you know? So it's fair. That's how I manage it, you know? So, yeah.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent. Emma, how do you manage stress?
Laughing. Um, there is something about understanding where you are and having that self-check-in. How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling emotionally and mentally? And actually being honest with yourself about it. So there's some things that I do intentionally, not because they are luxury. I'm in the privileged position I can do it, but actually it's medicine. It's equivalent of my medicine. So that physical pent up of emotion and stress in your body, I have regular massages because that actually helps with the physical tension that your muscles actually hold.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. How do you manage your stress?
I think one of the things that run in my family is laughter. We will find something to laugh about. We will laugh about ourselves. We will laugh about something that an uncle did at a wedding back in 2016 and something reminds us in 2025. So laughter is quite poignant in our family. So if you see my mum laughing or me and her having a joke, we're really not talking about you. We're talking about something that reminds us of something that happened. We have we've had a lot of bereavement in the family. Um, Daddy died in November last year. Um, so that's quite stressful. It's been quite challenging for mum. But one of the things that I've seen is mum remembers the good times. Um, she emphasizes that a lot. And laughter has been quite a powerful medicine. Remembering when Dad and I had our daddy and daughter dance, um, and yeah, trying to alleviate that stress. We might not necessarily talk about the stress, but each one of us find our own way. Personally, for me, I've started going to the gym, like my dear friend said. Gym is very, very helpful. It takes out a lot of that stress, and you leave feeling a lot better. So definitely exercise, definitely laughter, walking in nature as well. Thank you.
I think you said a key thing there. Everyone has their own way. Because for some people, going to the gym is going to be more stress. So it's whatever works for you. You know, you mentioned laughter. We've got up there free play. Free play is not just for children. You know, as adults, we need to learn how to have fun because fun is serious business.
So there are positive ways of managing stress, but there are negative ones because I've seen some carers putting on weight. In other words, some people when they are stressed, they start eating or they start making decisions that are not beneficial for them, and that becomes a vicious circle. When we go to the gym, we release stuff, but when you eat, this is not beneficial for you. When you start drinking or, I don't know, eating sweeties or when everybody is in bed eating cakes, you put on more weight, and that puts even more stress on your system.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy to make the right choice when we manage stress.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to find ways of relieving stress that actually enhance your capacities. Okay. Last one, and then we'll press on.
Some of the things that I do have already been said, but I just wanted to say
I find it helpful to try and break it all down because sometimes it can be really overwhelming. You're stressed by so many things. So trying to say, okay, today, what is stressing me today?
Yeah.
And saying, I need to do today what matters today. Of course, we need to plan for tomorrow, but I try to focus on today because that helps me to take it in like manageable doses, if I might call it that way. Then also the Psalms, the book of Psalms, it has done amazing things for me, especially in the mornings, and just reciting, because sometimes when I don't know what to do, I'll just memorize Psalms, like memorize Psalms 121, Psalms 27, So that has also helped me, and I've shared this with some people, and they've said it works. I think God's word has a way of, I can't describe it, but it has a way of healing and soothing. So I thought I should share that one. Then also celebrating the small things, like every day, to say, okay, well, my children are older now, and they've told me to stop doing some of the things I would like. Just a small praise from school, I'll put it on my status. They're like, Mom, now they're like, no. Stop making the birthday cakes. I'm 19 now. I don't want to be celebrated in church. So, but over the years, I found that doing those things, someone's birthday, it's my husband's birthday, bake a cake myself instead of buying it. So trying to do things for other people. And also making food for church. I know this might be strange, but even when I'm busy, I'm like, I want to make something special. I don't want to just make rice and lentils. I'm like, okay, I want to put my heart into it. Even when I'm busy, I'm like, you know what? I'm always busy with work. Why can I not be busy sharing with
And that
my
goes back to
church?
what we were
Thank
saying
you.
before about, the blessings that we receive from giving. Proverbs 11:25. All right, so there are various things that we can do in order to manage our stress levels. Move on, next slide. Next slide.
Pastor, I'm just going to ask that if you can, the next person needs to come on, so if you don't mind just...
No. I've got a lot of stuff to cover.
Because lunch is going to be coming up soon.
All right, okay, thank you very much. So is it 5 minutes, is that? Prophetic 5 minutes?
At best.
All right. All right. So you've got, you will get a copy of this. So we're going to move very, very, very quickly. All right. Caregivers can build respite into the working day. So what you've just mentioned, the little small victories. Take time to get away, recuperate. Let's just move through quickly. Caregivers need to learn how to investigate their emotions to get to the root of how they feel. Move on. All right, keep going. This is about emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is about the ability to be able to recognize your emotions, manage or regulate your emotions, recognizing emotions in others, and managing your relationships effectively. Your caregiving responsibilities will raise a lot of emotions within you that you need to address. So we need to move on. How to use your emotions, identify what it is that you're experiencing, work out the message that it is giving you. Ask yourself, how can you use the emotion? Identify what you need to change. Do you need to change your behavior? Do you need to change your perspective? And then take action to change your life. But vitally important that you learn how to manage your emotions. Caregivers need reassurance about the quality of care that they are providing. Keep going. Caregivers are called into the most intimate of all relationships, and that is the fellowship of suffering. And we looked at that yesterday. Jesus learned obedience through the things which he suffered. And suffering itself can be a great educator for us. So we are challenged to help caregivers see their role in the context of God's plan for their lives. And this is vitally important in terms of what we were saying before. Sometimes we can feel like, there are so many things that I wanted to do. But going back to what Pastor John shared with us yesterday, caring is evangelism. The caring responsibilities that God has given to us is part of our role in fulfilling his purpose for our lives. And when we see that in its context, then that can help us to be more settled in what life has handed to us. Let's keep going. Caregivers must believe that they can experience peace in spite of their daily challenges that they face. So, yeah, absolutely. The Word of God gives us this sense of peace in spite of the challenges that we have. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. One of the things that can be a real challenge. Keep going to the next slide and keep going until I tell you to stop. Go. One of the challenges that we have, particularly those who are caring for folks who are near the end of life, is to know what to pray for. And some people can feel a great deal of guilt. Spoken to folks whose loved one is near end of life and they have no quality of life and they're suffering, they're in pain. And it's like, well, what do we pray for? And they feel guilty because they think to themselves it's time for them to go. You know, they want their loved one to die. And they feel guilty because they want their loved one to die. But the thing in that situation is not that they have any kind of malevolent thought about wishing the death of their loved one. They just want the suffering to end. If they could snap their fingers and restore that loved one to full health and vibrant life, they would do it in an instant. But in the situation, those feelings they are very real. And folks can struggle with that. So it's difficult to know what to pray for. In those situations, we just have to leave it in God's hands and ask him to work his will according to his purpose. So some of the things that we can do as a church in terms of spiritual support, pastoral with a small p, pastoral visits, access to online services, participation in services through video links, communion at home, Bible studies, prayer meetings. If caregivers cannot get to church, we need to bring church to them. So we need to be proactive about that. And that requires that we are aware of what the needs are so that we can meet them. Yeah. Small groups is another way that we can help people to experience inclusivity. So again, taking the church to their homes. Caregiving support. Let's run through this very quickly. So create caregiving support groups. Did Anna speak yesterday about Carers Network? Oh, okay, all right. So that's something that can be done. Offer respite activities, offer chore assistance, caregiver appreciation, training and education, create a resource directory. There's lots of things that we can do in order to both raise awareness and give practical assistance to those who need to be included as part of the community. All right, so National Support Services, there's just a list, not an extensive list, but a list of some of the organizations that we can access in order to get help. And I think that's about it. Last slide, just a promo of the event that's taking place next month, 17th to the 19th of April at Newbold College. Let Them Flourish. And we're inviting anybody who has anything to do with educating children to come along. We're going to be looking at how we can make our churches creative spaces. We'll be looking at sensory provisions. We'll be looking at how to utilize AI to improve what we do in church. So please come along. We'll send this to you with the handouts that go along with these presentations. We'll send you the poster. Check out the QR code. You can book this on Eventbrite. And so yeah, that's from the 17th to the 19th of April at Newbold College. Thank you very much for your attention. I think went a little beyond the literal 5 minutes, but thank you very much for giving me that extra time. God bless you.
Amen, amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Aki. Did we learn something there, brethren, or did we learn something? I think this weekend has been very inspirational. It's been very motivational, and it's inspired me as a disabled person to really make the most of, actually to embrace my disability. You know, for a long time we hide because the world doesn't actually want to see us, because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because actually what it does is a disabled person and being attentive to their needs really makes you reflect on how you relate to people, or actually how you don't relate to people. Amen? And so we thank you, Pastor, for your time this morning. And next up, we're going to have one of the Possibilities team members present to you. The next few presentations actually will be from team members. And so we would like to ask Corinne to come forward, please. Thank you. Thank you. Corinne is one of our team members, and we look forward to hearing what she has to say. Please incline your ears to Corinne this not afternoon yet. I'm wishing the day away. I'm hungry. Serving Sen is what Corinne will be talking to us about this morning. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. How are we? Good stuff. You lot don't sound fine. So let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. How are we? I love it. That is beautiful. All right, so as Monique said, I'm one of the team members for the Possibilities Ministry. My name is Corinne. My background is I studied psychology twice over like a crazy person, and thinking about a third time round. And I've had experience of working with children and young people within schools as a teaching assistant, mainly with those who have special educational needs or disabilities. I've also worked as a speech and language therapy assistant as well. So I've had a variety of different like nuggets from different aspects. I worked at the Stephen Wiltshire Centre, which is a family hub for children with SEND needs as well. So I've grasped different things over time, and this is the reason why I'm doing this particular presentation. And over the years, one of the things I've realized, especially when working closely with parents, is that you've got these children who have been diagnosed, children, young people, even adults, and they have been misunderstood over time. They have been misunderstood, not just by the system, not just by their teachers, but mainly by their parents. And I've worked with children where their parents, they didn't want to accept this stigma, this label that's been put on them. So as a result, it was more challenging to give them the support that they needed. So until, like, when I went to work in speech and language, what I found was children who needed access to water play, father was just like, no, he can't do that. He's going to get too wet. And I said, this is what is going to help your child. You've got services such as occupational therapy involved. They have said this, but dad said, no, I don't want this. But why is my son not speaking? He is 6. He is 6. He should be speaking. You need to support him. You need to follow through with these plans. So where parents misunderstand or they don't want to accept what's going on, it's harder to provide the support that's needed for them. So I'm going to talk at you for a bit, so bear with me. Entertain me for a brief moment. I'm going to talk at you. So if we can go on to the four broad areas of SEND, please. So we're going to go through these. The first one is communication and interaction. So with communication and interaction, that comes up with your speech language communication needs. such as ASD, so your children who are on the autistic spectrum disorder. You've got those who have challenges producing sound, those who have difficulties understanding and using language, and those who have difficulties understanding and using nonverbal cues. And when it comes to understanding and using language, that's more, some children can't say the ball is under the table. They simply say ball. Some of them don't understand when you give them three-part instructions, because they'll hear one bit and everything else goes over their head. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they're being rude. It's simply they're not able to grasp the language that you're giving them, and it does require the support that they need. And again, you've got those who find it hard to say things, such as using different sounds. So where it comes to the s and f sound, they can't differentiate between the two with saying them, and they might mix the two of them. And then you have the t and d sound they can't say. So when they're meant to say a frog, they say sog. You know, so you've got these children who they find it challenging, and some years down the line, or without the right support, it is challenging for them, but also individuals around them. They go into situations and then they can't communicate with you, you can't communicate with them, and it looks like they're having behavior difficulties, and it's not, it's just, I don't know how to get my point across. I need you to hear me, I need you to understand me, and we need to be patient with them. And then we go on to cognition and learning. So cognition and learning comes with, as a sister was saying, dyslexia is one of them. You've got dyspraxia, where it's a condition affecting your physical coordination. You've got MLD, moderate learning difficulty. You've got SLD, severe learning difficulty. And again, ASD, which was mentioned before. And with your MLD, we're looking at those who are working well below their age expected levels. And then you've got the acute cognitive impairments under your SLD. And then we've got the social, emotional, mental health difficulties, so your SEMH. And these, we've got your ADD, which is your attention deficit disorder. But then you've got your ADHD, which we all hear about quite often, which is your attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Then you've got the OCD, obsessive cognitive disorder, but a lot of people say, oh, I've got OCD, I've got OCD, I've got OCD, not even realizing that what they're saying is absolutely not true. There's, you know, a whole different diagnosis around it, and when you meet someone who has got OCD, then you see what they're going through, and you're just like, oh my word, now I understand how rude it has been to claim that I have OCD. Then you've got those with anxiety, and some of them with anxiety, they can't leave past their front door. And we try and push, and we try and push, and we try and push. They can't do it because they've gone frozen up inside. And we are really trying, especially as a church, we expect everyone to fit into a mold. You have to be this way, you have to be that way, you have to do it this way, when really they need our support. They need that care, that compassion, that love. This is what they need in order to be able to thrive within our space. And then we've got the attachment disorders as well. And then the last one is our physical and or sensory needs. Sorry, bear with me. So we've got our physical disabilities, we've got our vision impairment, we've got hearing impairment, multisensory impairment, and also dyspraxia. So these are some of the things that are under these headings. It's a whole lot more. Probably could go into it, but we're not going to do that because it's going to be me talking at you for a fair bit. And what I want us to start thinking about, and what I want us to really get into is, how can we help them? How can we help our families of children who fall under this category? How can we help our children who come into this as well? Because at the end of the day, they're no different from we are. They need God as much as we do. So everything that we do as a church, we need to, as Herma said before, like, we need to be able to include them. How do we include them? And it goes back to what Pastor was talking about with the caregivers network as well. Like, how are we as a community going to help them to thrive in the ways they can? So I've got some questions. I've got 2 questions for you. I just want to see a show of hands. How many of us have an idea of ways in which we can serve and support our SEND members, that's children and adults alike? So I just want to see a show of hands. How many of us have an idea of how we can serve? I was expecting to see a lot more hands. This is good. I saw your hand as well. Yes, I did see you. And the next question I've got is, how many of us think our local churches are equipped to serve and support our SEND members? But they are equipped, you say? Okay. So Matthew 25, 36 to 40, that says, oh Lord, it's smaller on the screen than I thought it would have been. It was a lot of words. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison, you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger, take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you do it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. And if we put our SEND members into this text, are we going to be able to say that I was able to support them in their time of need? If we're not able to support them in our time of need, we're not able to support Christ. And I think was it you yesterday, Pastor? The book about the disabled Jesus. Did you put that on your slide? I remembered something. Hallelujah. And it's going, I think I would love to read that book, so I need to put it on my list. But I think it goes into that. How do we see others? Are we really seeing Christ in others is a question. Because if we see Christ in them, then we're going to be able to support them, right? So, oh Lord, 2 different things going on my screen. How can our churches serve? I've got some ideas. Oh, that didn't come out great. So, communication books, now and next boards. I love a good now and next boards with our little ones, because it supports them knowing what's coming next. And you can say, all right, remember, this is what we're doing now. And it helps so much with them being focused and then moving them on to the next task, rather than going through a battle of, child, I already said it 10 times already to you. I already said this to you. But instead, as long as you've got that visual for them, I'm such a huge advocate. Every parent that I come across and they start saying, oh, my child's not doing this, I'm struggling to get him ready for school, I'm struggling. That's fine. Have you got now and next boards at home? Have you got a nice little visual timetable at home that you can use? And then considering font size used, I say that, and my font size is terrible, right? If my mom was here, she would have been like, Kareen, I can't read a word of that. So considering the font sizes that we're using within our churches, so when it comes to having presentations, I'm going to be a huge advocate for your comms and your media team. When they say to send something by a certain time, send it by a certain time. And I mean, I might have sent this to them this morning, but when they do, it helps. And in order for us to serve all of our members, we need to work accordingly, work with the team that we've got, so that if anything, and we realize that things are too small, we can make those amendments in good time rather than leave it last minute and then you come up and just like, everybody's sitting down there, I can't see a word that you've put up there, and you expect them to read what is on the screen. So we've got to be very mindful. Sensory toys. I love a good sensory toys. I'll be honest. I may have just, I used to buy them specifically for myself. And I'll use them in sessions, but I like these ones. So I'm going to buy it because I really like them. Hair in loops in our churches as well. So when it comes to our members with hearing impairment, can our churches invest in hearing loops. You know, we need to figure out how we're going to do this. If it means you're going to fundraise as a community, fundraise. So if you get someone walking in off the street who wants to access your service, ensure that you've got something to support them, and Braille where possible. So I believe our Sabbath school quarterlies, we can get them in Braille. I believe we can do. So when it comes to our superintendents, they need to be aware that this is something that we can get. So if you've got a member who may need it, it's not even just if knowing that you've got a member. The question is, does anyone need? Does anyone need a quarterly with a larger font? Rather than just saying, we're ordering quarterlies, put this through. Because if you keep doing that, people who need a bigger font, they will never know that there is something that they can access, or they need Braille and there is something that they can access. So it's being well informed with what we have as a church to be able to support them better. So now my question is to you all, how can our churches serve our community? I need you to talk back to me at this point, please, and thank you. I appreciate you all. Yes, we've got a hand right there. I love talking. I'll be very honest. I'm a chatterbox. I can talk till that kingdom come, but I need you to talk to me right now.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I've been trying to express to my local churches, I'm the area coordinator for Possibility Ministries and Children's Ministries. And one of the things that I've been looking at are hearing loops, because when we're going through certain things, and someone's not going to say to you, oh, I got a hearing aid, I can't hear, you know, hearing loss can happen to anyone at any time. Plus, we're in a service to the community where we conduct several funeral services. We don't know who's coming in on those days. So my thing and my wish and my prayer is that every church that has their own building, that offers these services, minimum, have a hearing loop system. And that's my prayer.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? How else can we serve?
So also just wanted to add about resources for disabled people, deaf, blind. Always when they ask for finances, church always says that there's no budget. But where they spend their money on, they can get what they want, yeah. But when there is a need for something, there's no budget. So it's not fair.
Yeah, that is very sad to hear. Thank you so much for your contribution as well. Yes, sis?
Sorry, I don't know if this helped, but it's applicable because in our church it's new, the Possibility Ministry, as they just started just nominating in November. So they appointed me as the leader on top of being head of communication and media department. So I had to cross over both of them, and then also I'm part of the personal ministry. So what I'm doing at the moment, and especially like where coming from like a family member's got a health condition and me, both of us have mental health and disabilities, it's like I'm literally advocating and literally trying to do like what I'm doing at the moment is trying to write a recommendation for all departments, because something that was just popped up about hearing loops, it's like, oh, we need to get one. Oh, I hear that they say they have one. My next question literally just sitting there is like, why is it not out there? What you're doing? What's put away? Even right down to budget. I'm literally being on them at the moment. What is the budget? And it's like, oh yeah, we'll get to it, and it's in board meetings being pushed back. So now at the moment, I'm writing down a list for all departments, because I was speaking to a sister, other people about it, like saying what departments need to do. Because what I noticed from sitting there, like coming from like other people's perspective and also as an advocate, it's like the sound, like when it comes, for instance, to youth ministries, they're known for, like, the church I go to, they're known for children and music, but it's very loud. So they need to tailor it down to a little bit because it's like, it's too, even I had to run out of church one time. Hospitality, I had to tell them, right, make sure you label the food because it's like, coming from the legal side of things, they're at risk of a liability and getting a lawsuit because if it's not labelled properly and anyone got sick, because even like where my mum got sick and then went to the hospital, if they ask the question, where do you get the food from, and they out the church, you're done. So it's like literally, I think the best advice is like, if you know someone that is like the head of it, make sure they like literally advocate in the meeting, but also, I'm sorry if it sounds bad, and even this is advice from my manager from my workplace, you might need to keep pressing on them, like keep going, because if the only way it will stop if they actually give the answers. So it's like literally and it's also good to like literally go into like different departments, see what else that is missing, what is missing there that needs to be incorporated. That's it.
Thank you. Just before we move on to you, I just want to add to say to you that part of the church is to make sure that actually food safety is actually done by everybody. Food safety is part, when I talk about HR and I talk about training comes under HR. It has to be across the board. So it's an automatic thing. You shouldn't have to go to people and say, this is what's expected. Part of food safety is that they do label it. So these are things that must be done because it's not just about safeguarding. You know, there is a push for safeguarding right now, but it's not just about safeguarding. There's a spectrum of things that must be managed to ensure that our liability is not a problem.
Like literally, have to do it for them. Even like with the safeguarding, like say have a lanyard on, because they've made other suggestions, but I said suppose they don't want to look at faces. Like not in a disrespectful way, you all have beautiful faces, but it's like, it's where they can't do eye contact. You have to make sure you have something in place, like a backup plan, something to accommodate. So it's like, yes, I understand from HR point of view, but it's like, even like with me, what I'm going through, like through it, it's like, they need to make sure it's like we're in the balance, we're in like equality, make sure we're on the same wavelength.
Thank you for that. Have you got the mic? It's on, I put it on.
As somebody who worked in church finance and also in local finance many years ago, some of the questions about funding, etc., are something that should be at the church board level a long time before you get to this stage, because the church will only have, to say that something isn't fair because it hasn't been given when you ask for it is unreasonable, because you have to budget for everything. Those people who don't do household budgets then say, oh, I haven't got the money for such a thing. It's because you haven't planned. Every single thing, and as a local treasurer and as the assistant treasurer at the NEC, I remember people coming in with things that they couldn't possibly hope to receive because nobody knew at the time when they're making the allocations. So we need the things, discuss within the departments, bring your budget. There is a meeting at board level in the local churches and higher, and there are places where you can get additional funds. What we need, we can't get it yesterday. We need to plan properly so that everybody is aware, and that you may need to take from another budget. But we need to know that we're doing it so that everybody can get the funds that they need.
Thank you, sis. Auntie Ruth?
Yeah, my background's in occupational therapy. I had learning dyspraxia and I had scoliosis as well. So some of the things that I've been able to pick up, I'm very visual, so that's one of the things, because occupational therapy identify problems and bring solutions to it, is in our church spaces, how we do construction, making it more wheelchair friendly, in the way this layout of this room is, the chairs are very tight, so we need to be aware of dyspraxia, recognizing spatial awareness in others. There's unseen disabilities, and you spoke about that. One of the things I think I've spoken to Cynthia about this is that, let me identify the problem and then identify the solution. Every year, or every so often, they get the churches to complete this thing that, it's a questionnaire survey thing that asks you about what training audits, or she's called training audits, or what, they try to identify your skills base, right? So they identify what skills do we have in the church. And actually, that whole thing is not disability friendly. That's one thing I've identified. The second thing is that putting the right people in the right places is key. So, you know, if Pastor Dr. Leslie Aki specializes in counseling, emotional support, that's great. Who else specializes in the physical aspect? Who have we identified a person as part of solutions? Also, in every church, I think we talk about what we have in our church. We have prayer meetings. It's come across to me. We have a dear lady who is deaf. I've never been to a prayer meeting where there is sign language. Oh my gosh. That needs to be fixed. Okay, how do we fix that? How many people do sign language in our churches? Could we make it more accessible that every church in North England Conference, or at least there's 2 churches, or I don't know what number, but there needs to be a certain number of churches that have signers who are qualified, so that it becomes more accessible for different events that we have in churches, not just coming out to Hazelwood Street or going up Wells, Pendarren, Campbell, but the very other local services that churches provide and offer. So this is key. The key thing is how do we put us, you know, you're asking how can we help, how do we serve? I think this is a big important thing to identify where are our talents, because we're having the man with the 5 talents who's multiplying it, the man with the 10 talents is multiplying it, and then some people are just burying it. So what are we doing now to help that?
I think I'll just add to that. I think for you, what you're saying is, it's not that sometimes I don't think people are burying it. I think it's really important that we identify who's who and what they can do, because there is definitely a need to understand what actually as a church we need when it comes to possibilities, but across the board. You know, I mentioned about the training, the food safety aspect. That's not something that's normally thought about. It's an automatic, you know, we all cook food. And I love our community for us to be doing potlucking and bringing in food. We have to understand there's a legal responsibility, there's a liability that comes with it. If you're not trained, you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing, and someone has an allergy attack or anything like that. So we really need to be quite, you know, I like to quote the Bible on this, which is like, we need to be wise as a serpent but humble as a dove when it comes to us as a church.
I've got 2 points. The first one I wanted to just let you know, just a reminder really, I know you mentioned on the PowerPoint the word hearing impairment. So it was just to let you know that a lot of deaf people wouldn't be happy with that phrase. Because it just shows a little bit of lack of awareness. There are 2 types of deaf groups, I guess. There's those who are hearing impaired, just as you called it. Yeah, but then there are those that are deaf, they're just deaf, part of deaf culture. So hearing impairment, it will mean maybe, you know, you think, oh, I've been born deaf, but it's a different group. So, yeah, so in the future, it's just a reminder how to label people. And also, the second point was that you talked about in church, if a deaf person comes and there's no interpreter, most churches don't know who to ask. Yeah. How do you book an interpreter? They're not in the process of getting an interpreter. And there are some I know that will ask, no, wouldn't I? So some will ask, but then they get no reply. Like myself, I've had that experience. I've asked, are there interpreters going to be available, and I've had no reply. So the church might be, then a deaf person arrives, is that right? Oh, when they don't come. Yeah, they're shocked if the deaf person doesn't come. But the church should know and they should be prepared. So if, for example, that happens, who do you ask about booking an interpreter?
Thank you. By the way, I am taking all of these down. Some way, somehow, what I'll do, I'll actually get it back to Anastasia. And however way we can get these out to churches, we will get them out because it is crucial for all of our churches across the conference to know. I think we have over 200 churches within the SEC, and that is a large amount of churches, and we all need to be aware, no matter which part of the country we are based in. So I am taking all of these down.
It's just in response to quite a few things that have been said, particularly around deafness and hard of hearing. So the first one is that there is a lot going on in terms of deafness in the South England Conference. I'm not so sure what's happening in the North England Conference. This started on my watch anyway with Jacqueline Topper, and we have actually got, if people don't know, there's a Deaf Fellowship group that meet once a month, the third Sabbath of every month, at the Ladbroke Grove, Holland Park. It's at the Ukraine Church in Holland Park, and that allows deaf in the South England Conference or whoever in the community to come and worship in BSL or in their own language. The problem that we have is it's not well communicated within the church. So, for example, we've been asking for many years if the church can give us an idea of the number of deaf around the South England Conference, and there's been a very loud silence. And there could be many reasons for that. I don't know, but we estimate that we know of 20, but we're definitely sure there's a lot more, because you can include people who become deaf through their life, particularly elderly people, and we don't know about them because lots of elderly stop coming to church because they can't access what's going on. So communication is a really big thing that I would say is a problem. When the South England Conference does do things well, sometimes it's not communicated to the group that needs it. So, for example, I heard very recently that South England Conference puts the videos on YouTube, but they do it on a separate channel for the deaf. Well, I didn't know that, and I'm the possibilities leader at my church, so definitely the deaf members in my church didn't know that, and as far as I know, the deaf members who come to Deaf Fellowship didn't know. So, we do things. Is it being not checked, but are we following up to see how well it's being used? Because if you're not telling anybody, then you're just wasting money, right? The thing about interpreters in church, yes, very true what you're saying, but it's very difficult. If you want an interpreter, you have to allow yourself sufficient time. So this is about planning in advance. You have to allow sufficient time to book an interpreter, a proper interpreter. What tends to happen in our churches is we rely on either volunteers or people who aren't qualified. And I would explain it to people a little bit like me being asked to go and speak for the French Parliament, and somebody with GCSE French coming along and interpreting for me for the French people. People aren't getting access to the word in the right way. And then just coming back to the comment about budget, you're completely right. If you don't plan it, then you can't get what you want. But there are two things about that. The number of people, disabled people, and I'm talking about the deaf here, then often not included in the process, so it can't even get on the list. But what we are trying to do about that with Deaf Fellowship, this year I'm trying to train our deaf members in the deaf group to plan ahead for the next year so that we can access funds. So hopefully, if that becomes ingrained, then they can they can access, but they can, I don't know how to say it, they can ask for it themselves. They're not just relying on hearing people. I want to be an advocate for them to be able to stand up for themselves so that they can be active members within our church. I think that's it.
Thank you. So on the just getting things out to the wider community, I will. Yeah.
And this is an easy way. If you are doing an event and it is possible for deaf people to attend, on your poster, all you need to do is put up the symbol. And because when they read it, they don't want to be able, as long as the symbol's there, they'll know that it's accessible. If you, and I'm speaking to our church, if we know that we've got interpreters available, then we can put symbols up as well. So any event that you have where deaf can access, you need to let them know. Otherwise, they're just not going to turn up in the hope that you're going to be able to provide for them.
Thank you so much. So we're communicating about the Deaf Fellowship. I will give you an email address a little later on once we're done, so that you can email the SEC media team, the SEC comms team, to say, we've got this event, can you put that in the communicator? I don't know how many people utilize it. Yeah, I know, but for the community you're saying, isn't it?
As an example, it came to our attention, I think it was some sort of fellowship, no, it wasn't 10 days of prayer, it was something at Willesden Church, and they'd gone to, all of, they tried to plan, and it was accessible for the deaf, but we weren't aware. So nobody was aware that they had done this. So how can people attend in person or look online if they're not aware? So I just didn't know.
Basically, it's a case of SEC, we're having a camp meeting, it's going to be accessible for the deaf, you have your post and you advertise, put the sign there, and then the deaf will recognise, oh, I can attend that because they've got an interpreter.
Javier, you lot hearing this, yeah? That one's specific for you. Cool. All right, we're going to be wrapping up shortly as well.
Myself, I just want to thank you that you are part of the SEND people. There's a lot that just want to add on what deaf people, they have something less to communicate, but there are parents who have children with deaf problem as well. Like I have a child, Joy, she's partially deaf. So sometimes you see that maybe teachers, they are unaware of how to help that child. Like when we are at church, sometimes you see that Joy, who maybe want to hear what the teacher is saying, but because she cannot hear, she will start misbehaving because she doesn't understand what you are saying. So I think we need to have that awareness, like teachers to have these trainings to know how to support children with these problems. And as well, I just want to add on, like, me, I'm from Africa. Most of the things that run in this country, having a child with disability, it was hard for me because I didn't know where to go.
Also, just to let you know, sis, it's not that Joy is misbehaving when she can't understand. It's just that she is struggling to be able to hear what's going on, and she needs everyone around her to be patient with her. It's not that she's misbehaving just because, you know what, let me just start causing a ruckus in church. It's not that. It's not that. It's just that there are challenges, and we will. Sorry, Cynthia, just before you go, because I know this is going to be on this point. Sorry. Yeah. So she's just it's on this point, and I don't want to lose this for the sis. Sorry, we're coming back. So yeah, just quickly, it's because I know it's literally on this point, and it's her field, and then we'll come on because it's on that point of what the sister was saying. So I'm not ignoring. I'm coming back.
So all behaviour is communication. And all behaviour is giving a message that we have to interpret. So there isn't something that's negative about behaviour. It's just saying it's giving a signal that we who are seeing behaviour need to actually stop and say, what is this behaviour communicating?
Thank you. All right.
Apologies for today. No, they've got the mic.
So also, I always go to church in Sabbath. Our interpreter is Deborah. She's Ampula, and they're really great. They're fantastic. But after church, when there is songs, praises, when it goes on for long, it starts to become a bit stressful, and then again there's preaching, and then it gets a bit tiring. I feel like the preaching is more important than having too many songs in a row, because the songs as well, it uses Old English, and it's quite hard for us to understand the wording, and also for us, our communication, we receive communication with our eyes, and it gets tiring for us. Also, to add, you need to think of interpreters too, because they're signing all the time, and they get tired too. And a lot of times, interpreters don't get the resources before, they don't get the songs, so they can't prepare, and they have to do it on the spot. So yes, deaf do get tired as well, but it's also the interpreters that get tired, especially when they're not prepared. You need to remember that not all deaf people like too many songs. Songs are nice, praising is great, but they're not all the same. Some doesn't like it when it's going on for too long. It is more important to get the God's word in when the pastor is preaching. And yeah, like I said before, it's Old English in the songs. They struggle a lot, and it means that the interpreter needs to work double time to explain what the meaning is in the songs.
Thank you so much. I have learned a whole lot just now. And that is really, really useful to know. So I think all that we've said, this is the last point. This is, all right, one more point, because I can't take up the whole day.
I'll walk and talk. I'll employ my acting skills and walk and talk. So just going back really quickly, in terms of what the SEC Possibilities Ministry are doing, I know, as I mentioned earlier, Sister Anna is doing a lot to try and get to the local churches to see where the gaps are in the provision for the possibilities departments of each church. We have in the welcome packs that you should have received by now, if you haven't, please be a team member, there is a questionnaire in there for all possibilities, leaders, departments, etc. If you don't have a possibilities leader, that should be your pastor, but we know pastors are overworked, so if you have, some churches have a structure where they may have a go-to elder that oversees them in place of pastor. So if you as a possibilities leader that is here today, if you can liaise with either your go-to elder or your pastor in filling out that questionnaire, or if you can do it, if you're capable of doing it today and you can return it to Anna, then she can see, because my sister, I take your point in terms of the monitoring of those with disabilities and those with specific needs that need to be addressed. Because again, we know it's not a one cap fits all. So in terms of deaf numbers and deaf monitoring, I think Pastor Aki mentioned this morning, there needs to be an environment where people feel comfortable to disclose disabilities. If people do not feel comfortable to disclose their disability, then they're not going to say, I am deaf, I am etc., etc. So those, that data will not be captured. And so it will look like, in a conference of how many thousands, you've got 20 deaf people. The numbers are not stacking up, are they? Well, that's why I said Anna's put that. And she's been doing it for quite a while, but again, it's they're not coming, thank you. The responses. It's about the engagement. So what we're really saying is, we're supposed to be one body, but we've got the different parts of the body acting on their own. And so the body's not working properly. That's what...
Okay,
yeah, that's why I wanted to make the point that there are impacts.
Just the last point now.
Yes. So
Sorry, I missed
just an example. A few years ago, went to visit Derby, and I did let them know that I'm going to come for a visit, and they said there will be there's an interpreter there. There's one deaf person going there, and when I came for a visit, it was a bit panicky. When I walked in, church members came up to me, started talking to me, and I told them, and they started talking to me, and I told them I'm deaf, and they started to panic, and they weren't aware. It felt like there was no deaf awareness, so they just sat me next to that deaf person in the church. And I was just talking to himself, and he told me himself as well, he's been going to that church for 13 years, and there's no interpreters. Just once in a while. And the whole church knows him well, but nobody provides for him. And his mum is there with him, supporting him. I think it's just not fair. Like earlier, one lady spoke before, she's got a deaf son, and I know it's a struggle to see who to ask for the support for her son, and it's really difficult, yeah. And imagine, I visited the guy in Derby Church, and it's been 13 years. It's quite a long time, and still no support.
Thank you. Last point.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is not only South England Conference or North, it is all over the world. Myself, I go to Holloway Church, and I used to be on a possibility some years back. But wherever we come to different retreats, you know, always church has a packed program for the whole year. So you can't, I'm not saying they minimize the ministry, but maybe awareness and people to get to understand the importance of this, whatever we are learning now. So for me, it didn't work because I couldn't be more aggressive just to tell them this is what has to be needed. Not because we don't have the ministry is there, but it is maybe once a year, something like that. And because I've been working with special needs for all over my life, well, since I came in this country 28 years, I decided 7 years ago, we started a school in Uganda, and everyone is inclusive. And I have I have 4 families. They brought their children because they have some learning difficulties. You know, actually we're not taking the deaf because we don't have the interpreter. But the families who have joined our school were in a remote area. But these children specifically, one is Prince, one is Peter, and they can't express themselves, as my sister was saying. These children, they always tell their mom when they come for, to pick them, we are not going back home, because they don't feel accepted in their home. So we stay with the children almost for 10 months with all the children. So this awareness is not only the South England Conference, it's all of us. For me, this little treat was for me. So I thank God for this.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. Sorry guys, I'm struggling. It's too hot. So I don't want my asthma kicking off on me. So I say overall, the main thing that we need in our churches is love. Once we start with love, we're able to meet needs, because then we see people as people. We see people as individuals who need God, as individuals who need love. And if we don't see them as that, if we don't have love, there's no point. There's no point to anything. We'll never be able to get anywhere without love. So it starts with love. I think anything that comes to life, comes to people, for me, it starts with love. It's a love for God first, and then a love for our friends, our family members, our neighbors around. Because through that, we will get very far with love. If we're just doing it for the sake of doing it, we're not going to get anywhere. Thank you all for entertaining me in this moment. Thank you all for your points that's been shared. I'm going to pass everything on to Anna, and then we, some way, somehow, will try and get this all out to our churches around us. So thank you all ever so much.